How to play fingerstyle or fingerpicking guitar, lesson 19. In this lesson, we'll conclude and reinforce what we've learnt in lesson 18 about blocking and the blocking technique. So we'll do another 3 exercises and another tune. If you haven't been through lesson 18 or you're new to this course, I'll put the link to the complete course down below in the description. And if you are new to it, you'd be wise going through the whole course lesson by lesson. You can also find this complete course, as well as many others, at www.ebooks4guitar.com, and there you can see the ebooks online for free. Right, let's get into it. Lesson 19, Exercise 1. This exercise is 4/4 time, and the chords are fairly straightforward because you've covered all of these chords earlier in the fingerstyle guitar course. However, you do need to watch out for the repeat because the first 2 lines are repeated before you follow the rest of the exercise through to the end. Before we go through it, here it is being played at 120 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. I'll also include the repeats, and this should give you a good idea how it should sound. Looking at the tablature, you'll notice we change chords predominantly every 2 bars, and we introduce the chord by playing it with a block using all our fingers. We then alternate between the bass played with the primary and the chord played with the index, middle and annular fingers. Because the rhythm to this tune works over 2 bars, I'll teach you how to play it in 2-bar measures. Bearing that in mind, let's listen to the first 2 bars repeated 4 times at 100 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. If you think you can, try and play along with it. And here that is again at 100 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Right, let's try that again, but this time a little bit faster at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Let's try that again, a little bit faster again at the full speed, 120 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. If it's too fast for you, Don't worry, just sit it out. If you couldn't play it yet at 120 beats per minute, don't worry about it, it will come with practice. Or, as long as you get the chord changes and the tune with one of the metronome beats, that's fine, as it's just an exercise, and the whole intention of it is more to get the technique than the speed. Once you've got a feel for the rhythm, we can take a look at the first two lines, which are repeated. So here's the first two lines being played, somewhere in the middle, not at full speed and not dead slow, at 110 beats per minute, with a 2-bar introduction. And I'll ignore the repeats for the moment. Here that is again at 110 beats per minute, but this time I'll include the repeat. Let's take another look at the tab, and you'll notice the second half of the tune is more or less the same as the first half of the tune, but we're making slight changes to the chords that we're playing. Here it is being played at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Before we hear the second part being played again, let's take a look at some of the chord changes. The first chord change is very easy, and the trick is to leave the third finger in place. So you go between the D and the A sus4 around the third finger. Now there's two ways of arriving at the A sus4 and then the A. One way is to cover all 3 strings with 2 fingers, and people with fat fingertips find this far easier. However, if you've got more delicate fingers, you'll want to cover just the D and the G string, and then when it comes to playing the A, you drop down the third finger to the 2nd fret. Before you try playing that passage with the metronome beat, it would be worth you playing through it a couple of times just to get used to the changes. The next chord changes we'll take a look at are between the D sus4, the D sus2, and back to the D again. And the first of those changes is the D to the D sus4. And this is literally a case of adding the 4th finger to the 3rd fret of the top E string. And to go between this and the D sus2, we take off the 4th finger and the 2nd finger, revealing the open E string. And then to go back to the D, we just put that second finger back in place. Now, this chord progression in different orders is used in a lot of tunes. For example, Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. A famous passage in the middle is played between the D sus2, the D and the D sus4. Here's the second part of the tune being played at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Play along with it if you think you're ready. And here it is again, one last time. Right, if you're ready, let's bring the whole tune together at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And here that is again. Try and play along with it if you think you can. Finally, here it is at 120 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction, and this time I'll include the repeats. Try and play along with it if you think you can. If you need to practice that some more, I'll put some metronome beats at the end of this video. Exercise 2. This exercise is in 3/4 time and it's a waltz style. Before we take a look at this exercise in more detail, let's hear it being played through first at 120 beats per minute. For this exercise, the chord changes are quite straightforward, but we do need to just quickly look at the fingering for the A7. And this is because you might be tempted to use the first and second finger or the first and third finger, which are both correct in the right circumstances. But when you're going to a D7, it makes far more sense to play it with the second and the third finger. And this is because you can bring that shape across to the top E string and the G string and just place the first finger on the first fret of the B string. So it makes the change from the A7 to the D7 a lot more straightforward. Another thing I need to explain in this exercise is the dot above certain notes. And this is a staccato. And what this means is that the note should be played short and sharp. For this particular tune, to achieve the staccato, I recommend you putting the plucking fingers back on the strings after you've played them. And the reason I suggest this method is because we're playing a lot of open strings. When you're playing a tune that's got chords that are covering all the strings, then you can partially release the note so it stops the strings from ringing, and this achieves the same effect. So you can get a good idea how the rhythm should sound and how the staccato should sound. Here's the first line repeated 4 times. I'll play it at 100 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction so you can play along if you want to. Here that is again, at the same speed with the 2-bar introduction. Try and play along with it if you can. Once you've got the basic rhythm, the chord changes are fairly straightforward. So here's the entire exercise being played at 100 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And here that is again, one last time. If you manage to play that okay at 100 beats per minute, here it is at 120 beats per minute in case you want to try it a little faster. Otherwise, you can practice it and build up the speed and then return to this part of the video. And here that is again, one last time at 120 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Exercise 3. This exercise is in 4/4 time. And once again, the chords are fairly straightforward as they're ones we've used before in the Fingerstyle guitar course. However, you do have to watch out for the repeat again. In this particular exercise, you repeat most of the tune as the repeat goes from the 4th line back to the 1st line. Another thing to watch out for is the last bar of line 1, 2, 3 and 4 because they're walking bass lines. With the 2nd, 3rd and 4th line, you can hold a chord, so this isn't an issue. But in the last bar of the 1st line, you have to remove most of the fingers of the chord except for the 1st finger, because this appears in the 1st chord and the 2nd chord. This is the fastest of these exercises, so to give you an idea how it should sound, here it is being played with the repeat at 150 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Let's just take a closer look at the change between the C major and the A minor, which happens between bar 3 and bar 5. So I'll play it really slowly at 90 beats per minute. Focus your attention on the fingering hand. Here that is again. Notice how I leave my 1st finger in place. Right, let's try and play this exercise all the way through, but for now we'll ignore the repeat. And when you consider at full speed, this is 150 beats per minute. So we'll play it more slowly for now at 120 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Here that is again without the repeat at 120 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Finally, here's the exercise being played at 150 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And I'll include the repeats in this version. If you think you're ready, try playing along with it. However, if you're not, don't worry, you can always return to it later, or you can move on to the next exercise. And here that is again. Exercise 4. The Bavarian Waltz. This tune is obviously 3/4 time. And I say obviously because all waltzes are 3/4 time. We've built up to this tune throughout the exercises, so most of the theory and the chords you've already covered. However, let's just revise one small point just in case you don't notice it, and that's that the second beat of the bar is a staccato. And now that you're aware of what a staccato is, keep your eyes open for them in the future, because it's really easy to overlook them or ignore them. And if you don't play them, it makes a real difference to the way the tune sounds. Another thing I need to point out in the tablature is the first time, second time repeats. And what this means is, when you play through the first 8 bars, you hit the repeat and go back to the beginning. But the second time, you don't play the 8th bar, you skip this and go on to the 9th bar. And then you continue on through the tune. To give you an idea how it sounds, I'll play through it at 140 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And for obvious reasons, I'll play the repeat. something I should point out about the G in the second half of the tune, and that is that you're not playing the entire chord. So if you prefer, you just need to play the second and third finger on the bottom two strings. And for a lot of people, this will make the change between the G and the A a lot quicker and easier. Something else I'll draw your attention to, and that's the staccato technique. With the D, you simply have to release the chord to mute the strings. However, with the G, this isn't possible because you're playing all open strings, so you need to use your picking hand to mute the strings. And when considering which technique to use to create the staccato, watch out, because wherever possible, you want the bass note to ring. So you don't want to mute the entire chord if you're muting the bass note. Here it is at 140 beats per minute. Don't try and play along with it just yet. Just watch for the techniques we've just discussed. You'll probably need to practice that for a while to get the techniques right before you try it with a metronome. However, here it is anyway at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And to start with, I'll just play the first half with the repeat. And here that is again. Try and play along with it if you think you're ready. Right, here's the second part at the same speed with a 2-bar introduction. Remember, if you have trouble going between the G and the A, to use a partial G chord. Right, before we bring the two halves together, here's the second half again at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Try and play along with it if you think you can. Right, here's the whole tune at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Here that is again for the last time at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Try and play along with it if you think you can. As usual, at the end of this video, I'll have various speeds of metronome, so you can try and speed it up to the 140 beats per minute if you want. However, if you think you're up to going straight into it, here it is at 140 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. If you found you've struggled with any of these exercises, don't worry about it. You can return to them over any length of time and just practice them a little bit more. The main thing is to get the blocking technique, as at this point in the course, that's what I want you to learn really. The staccato is quite hard, but by starting to practice it at this stage, it'll help you build up your technical strength and your ability to mute and control the way the strings are ringing. And this is quite often overlooked, but it's a really important part of playing the guitar. If you need to see the tab to practice these exercises, go to www.ebooks4guitar.com and there you can view it online for free. And you just go to the lessons, select what hand you play the guitar with, and then look for the Fingerstyle guitar course. And if you're new to these lessons, or if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe and hit the bell icon, and then you'll be notified when I upload new lessons. Thank you very much for watching, and I really look forward to uploading the next lesson very soon.